So now let's use the skill that we learned in the last video about solving for base b when it's in the form b to the n equals k. Let's use that skill to be able to find the equation for an exponential function that goes through these 2 points by hand. We're going to round the value of b to 2 decimal places. Sometimes you pick 3, 4, whatever. All right, and remember that for us, for an exponential function, b is always going to be positive. So we're not going to deal with the plus or minus thing so much at this point. I wanted you to know about the plus or minus thing for future reference in chapter 6, but for right now, we're not going to be dealing with it much. All right, so let's start with a couple things. So you might want to note that 0, 7 is our y-intercept, which means that we already know what a is. Remember that, which means a must be equal to 7. Remember that when you're dealing with these functions, the a times b to the x, the a is that y-intercept. And since they gave it to you, 0, 7, then you know it's 7. Done. Okay, so now what? So you're thinking, okay, well, f of x is equal to a times b to the x, but I know that that's f of x is equal to 7 times b to the x, because 7 was given. So now what you need is you need a way to solve for b. Okay, b is the part you need. Well, you know that x must be, how about we use this other point? We say, okay, if that's what way you want to play it, 273 is my y equals 7 times b to the 6. Right? I'm substituting. I'm using the other point. So I used the first point they gave me to put in here for 7. And then I'm using the second point. 6 was my x, 273 is my y. And we can solve this because we just spent a page doing problems like that. See? Okay, so we're going to solve this for b. So the first thing you want to do is you want to divide by 7. Nobody wants 7 in there. Okay, and I'm just going to flip-flop them because, well, I just feel like it. So b to the 6th is equal to, and I'm doing that because this divides away, right? That's why I picked 7 in the first place. Okay, is equal to 39. I think I'm right. Yeah, 39. And then I want to get b by itself, so I'm going to have to raise both sides to the 1/6 power. So I'll do it over here, do it over here. And just like before, this is going to divide away and make just plain b to the 1, which is b. So I'm going to have b is approximately, and then I need to go find what 39 to the 1/6 is. And again, we did not do the plus or minus because for exponential functions, they can't be plus or minus. They can only be the positive. So 1 divided by 6, close parentheses, enter. 1.842. I'll do 3 decimal places. I know I said 2, but I'm going to make it 3. I just feel like it. All right, so then my equation is f of x is equal to 7 times, parentheses, 1.842 to the x. There we go. Now that particular problem was actually quite simple because I gave you this intercept part at the beginning. By doing that, I made your life easier because you could just put 7 in for a and half your work was done. So you know it's coming, right? I'm going to give you one where I don't do that. All right, let me show you one other thing though really quick. So note, you can check with your calculator. Okay, now how? This is why you should never get any of these questions wrong ever, right? Because you can always check yourself before you wreck yourself. Sorry, I had to. It was in there. The joke was there. Okay, so let me go to stat edit for a second. So if I go to stat, I go to edit. I got some old junk in here that I don't want, so let me clear this out. Clear. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my x's are L1, so 0, enter, and 6, enter. And then my y's are 7, enter, and 263, enter. Okay. I'm going to take a picture of that, and I'm going to put it right in here. And of course, you and you're following along should just kind of make a note. L1 should be 0 and 6. L2 should be 7 and 263. Okay. And then you go back to Stat, Calc, and you want to go, actually I kind of go up because it's close to the bottom of the list, but you can go down to it. One way or another, you got to get to 0. EXPREG, see it right there? Exponential Regression. So you press Enter, and I have the old system, so it doesn't require me to go down, down, down and press Enter. So if you have the new menu system, it'll say things like, let me think. It'll say things like list 1, list 2, frequency list, that kind of thing. And then you move your cursor down to the bottom and press Calculate. And there you go, 7, 1.83. Oops. You probably already caught it. I made a mistake. That's why it's not the same as the answer. It was 273, not 263. See how one little number, Stat, Calc, I want to get to 0. There it is. Now let's try this again. Yay, 7, 1.84. That's what we wanted, 1.84. All right, so that's how you can check yourself with your calculator. So you should never get any of these questions wrong, right? Because you can always double check yourself. And in so doing, I've taught you how to do this by calculator for the next problem. So let's look at this one. It's 2, 5, and 6, 77. So I'm going to go to my calculator. Oops, right here. I'm going to go Stat, Edit, clear out the old, type in the new. So it was 2 and 6 as my x's, and 5 and 77 as my y's. Now, as you're taking notes, don't just follow along on the calculator. Actually make a note of what you typed in. So make a little table for yourself. It doesn't have to look like the screen does, but you should have L1 with 2 and 6, L2 with 5 and 77. Make sure you note for yourself what you typed in. So you should show that little bit of table. Put that right in your notes right now. Okay, and then you go to Stat, Calc, 0, which is exponential regression. And again, I'm on the old system, so I can just press Enter because my data was in L1 and L2. So there it is right there. So let me take a picture of it and then paste it in. So that means that for us, f of x is equal to 1.274, that's my a, times 1.981 to the x. There we go. Done. Did it by calculator. Now let's see how to do it by hand. All right. Oops. I think this was supposed to be at the bottom of this page because those were all the calculator steps. And again, you might notice that they might be a little bit different for the newer operating systems. I can't really show that to you here, but it might be asking you what your list 1 is, which is L1, and or your X list, which is L1, and your Y list, which is L2. But my computer program won't show that, so I can't do it. Okay, so let me put in a table. Hold on. All right, we start off with step 1. We're going to enter the 2 points into 2 separate equations with the larger x on top. Now, what in the world am I talking about? Well, hold on one second. You remember we had the points. They were 2, 5, and 6, 77. See those? Those are our points. Okay. Now the one with the larger x is the 6, right? So you go, okay. Let's see. Remember, it's y equals ab to the x. So I'm going to go 77 equals ab to the 6. As a matter of fact, in 2 separate equations, let me just put what those are. That way you don't forget. ab to the x, right? 2 separate y equals ab to the x equations with the larger x on top. So I put that one in there, right there, and then right below it, I'm going to put 5 equals a times b to the 2. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why in the world are you doing that? Okay, well remember in chapter 3 that you could eliminate variables. Hold on, let me pull up chapter 3. Okay, it was right here on page 49. See how you added those two equations? You said, oh, negative 4x, positive 4x. When I add them, right, nothing happens, something happens and these cancel, and I'm left with no x's at all down here, right? Well, that same business is going on, except you don't have to add. You can divide. So that's step 2. Boom. Divide the top equation by the bottom equation and solve for x. So let me put a big division bar in here. Okay? And this guy's what goes in the denominator. So you say, okay, I'm going to take that top equation divided by that bottom equation. What's that going to give me? Well, over on the left-hand side, it gives you 15.4, because that's what 77 over 5 is, equals, oh, rats, let me put this in here. That way we can talk about it. So over here, 15.4. So 7 over 5, 15.4. And over on the right-hand side, a divided by a, this is why you're doing it, it makes 1. It's eliminated, see, kind of in its own way. And leaves you b to the, but this is 6 take away 2, which is b to the 4th, right? Because you subtract those powers. Remember that property from earlier in this chapter. So you say, okay, 15.4 equals b to the 4th. Okay, but that means that if I want to get b by itself, I need to raise both sides to the 1/4 power. Do it there. Oopsie. Do it over here. They cancel, or divide, if you will. And then b is whatever 15.4 to the 1/4 is. Let's see. 15.4 to the parentheses 1/4. Enter. 1.98. 1.980, or here it is, 1.981, which if you recall was here, what we said it was right there. See, 1.9801, right there. Or excuse me, 09, 1.981. All right, then you substitute b and a point into the equation to solve for a. That's your next move. And again, equation would be this y equals ax plus a to b to the x thing. Okay. All right. Well, that's not too bad. So you say, okay, I know it's got to be y equals a times 1.981 to the x, because we found that. Okay, then you'd say, okay, well, I'm going to pick one of my points. How about I pick the point 2, 5? You could pick 677 as well. It doesn't really matter. But 5 equals a, I still don't know, 1.981 to the 2. But this is a number with your calculator, right? Let me take it. Calculator. I'm going to take that number with all the decimal places, take the last answer, which is above your negative sign if you wanted to get it that way. I just press the caret button and it automatically makes it last answer. So 1.9809 to the 2. Enter. And there we go, 3.92. So I'd say, okay, I've got 5 is equal to a times 3.924. Okay, then to get a by itself, I would divide both sides by 3.924. They cancel over here, so you're just going to be left with a equals, well, it's approximate, right? Because honestly, it was approximate from the very beginning. This was always a squiggly equals because we were rounding. We rounded 1.981 and we're going to be rounding again. So these should all have been this, but that's okay. Okay, so a is approximately, now I want to take 5 and divide it by that 3.924. So I take 5 divided by, and I'm going to use the calculator second the negative sign. They'll take the last answer. That way I keep all those decimal places. And it should be about 1.274, which is perfect because that's what we said it was, right? Back when we did it with the calculator right here, 1.274. And so that means we end up with the same answer, right? So they step 4, write the equation with a and b filled in. And there it is. Perfect. And I think we are done with this section. And the box at the bottom, by the way, it was just telling us that it was totally valid for us to do this step right here, that you can divide equations. That's all that bottom box is saying, that this is totally okay. And we're done.